And we're off and running on the Krueger Show. Hope everybody's having a great night. Tuesday night, Raj in the house. Raj night on the Krueger Show. Raj and I have been going strong and steady on most Tuesday nights for the last year plus. And, of course, we are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Get the brisket chili. It's all great. But go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Krug sent you. Get some barbecue. And, of course, this stream also brought to you by Sharp Corners, Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue. They're in Pacific Grove along the Monterey Peninsula. Give my good friend Anthony Catania a call. He's at 831-521-5264. And, of course, we're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code Krug, and they will match you up to your first $100. All right, I'm a little spicy. I'm a little feisty out of the gate. Now, why is that? Because already I'm getting pissed off by my chat. Chuck Parker, what a stupid clickbait headline. Hey, Chuck, it got you. Got you. You're sitting here. No, I'm just joking, Chuck.
Yikes.
I'm not hating on you, Chuck, but I will call it my own response. I said, hey, Chuck, it's not a clickbait headline. It's a real story. So the live stream is entitled The 49ers, the Biggest Loser from the Offseason. And it really should have been kind of a question mark. But this was one of the stories that I when I was doing my deep dive this afternoon saying, what are Raj and I going to get into today? One of the things that came up was that there are people that believe that the Niners are one of the losers of the offseason. So why don't we start there? Mike Jones in The Athletic had his offseason winners and losers. And I'll just go right off the chute. His winners are Bears, Washington, Lions, Philly, Tampa. His losers are Buffalo, Carolina, Dallas, Jacksonville, Niners. All right, I totally disagree with the Bears thing because I think Caleb Williams sucks. And I think he's going to suck. And I think he's going to be a huge bust. So once again, if you believe Caleb's awesome, then you could say the Bears are big winners. But if Caleb's the bust that I think he's going to be, then they're not big winners. Now, I do agree with Washington as being a big winner. I do agree with Detroit being a big winner. I most definitely agree with Philly being a big winner. I guess I would push back a little bit on Tampa. Buffalo lost Stephon Diggs, or traded Stephon Diggs, they were forced to trade. Brandon Beane did not want to make that trade, I'm sure. Carolina, okay, I'd have to go look deeper. Dallas, I totally agree with. Jacksonville, I could see that. But Raj, what do you think? What do you think about Mike Jones in The Athletic? Are the Niners one of the biggest losers of this offseason in your mind?
Yeah, a couple of things. First and foremost, Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones? I don't even know.
Mike Jones in The Athletic.
Mike Jones?
I don't know Mike Jones.
I don't either. Who? Anyways, I wouldn't say
there's a Raider linebacker, the Ram linebacker who made the key tackle on Kevin Dyson. Wasn't that guy? Wasn't that Mike?
Was that Mike Jones? Who?
I think that was Mike Jones.
Okay. Maybe. I don't know.
Music City Miracle Titans with my good friend Lo Neal fell Kevin Dyson 1 yard short, and Dick Vermeil. The tears were flowing, and Dick Vermeil was a champion.
Listen, first and foremost, whatever Mike Jones, whoever this guy, I'm not really going to take what he says with the grain. I'm not going to take what it is seriously. I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. Are the 49ers one of the biggest losers? I don't think so. They're still a Super Bowl contending team. They added a lot of good players to their roster. I think me and you have talked about. I think they've really improved their secondary. I feel like they've improved their D-line, but they did lose some pieces, right? They lost some players on the D-line. Armstead, they lost the defensive coordinator. They got a new defense coordinator. Did they really upgrade their O-line? So, in a sense, there are questions coming off of the 49ers, who are the defending NFC champions. So, did they bolster their team enough to make it better? Probably not. It's probably maybe at least as good as they were, last season, which is an NFC champion. So, that's great. So, in a sense, I mean, I don't know if they upgraded their team good enough, but I think they're still a cream of the crop of the NFC, right? Now, I get it. A lot of those teams had a lot of hype. They spent a lot of money. The Bears, they brought in all these guys. Lions went out all out. They're trying to improve the roster to take out the Niners. Eagles, they got Barkley. They spent all this money. So I get where people are saying those teams are the flashy names. The Commanders went and signed 500 guys. They got, our former assistant GM, Adam Peters. So, I could see why people think they won. Jaguars, definitely, I agree with them. They were a loser. They spent all this money on Trevor Lawrence, who really hasn't proven himself, and they threw money to everybody, signed injured players. That's what they do. But Dallas, to me, is the biggest loser. I mean, they didn't sign anybody except Zeke Elliott. They still need a running back. They haven't paid CeeDee Lamb yet. But I think another reason why the 49ers might be tagged as a loser is because they still haven't extended Brandon Aiyuk. But as we know with the 49ers, they have a guy under a big contract situation every single year, and they don't sign him till training camp. That's kind of like the way they do it. So, in a sense, the 49ers probably could have signed him earlier, but again, they're kind of stalling on that end. I don't know. I don't agree that they're the biggest loser,
I
but
don't either.
I will say this though, Larry. I don't know if they've improved their roster that it's better than it was last year. I think they're still as good as they were last year, at least to that point.
I mean, I think that the Niners didn't do what the masses thought they should do and would do, and that is go into the offseason and draft 2 offensive linemen in their first 3 picks and really bolster that offensive line. I think if they had done that, but they don't always see their roster the way we see it. There were a lot of people that thought they were going to go for a safety, a couple years ago, and they didn't. They didn't draft a safety at all. So sometimes their view of their roster and our view of their roster are not one and the same. I think it's easy to look at the Niners and say, well, their offensive line sucked and they have to get an offensive lineman. And then they didn't get an offensive tackle. And all of a sudden it's like, they didn't do what we wanted them to do. They had a bad offseason. But I don't know if you can say they had a bad offseason based on, I think they acquired a lot of significant talent here. I mean, at wide receiver, they added Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing. So, and Trent Taylor. That's pretty good. Along the offensive line, they didn't get a tackle, but they did draft Dominic Pooney. They had acquired Ben Barch late in the season. They like him as a center prospect. They signed Chris Hubbard, who's, I don't know how good Chris Hubbard is, but they also drafted Jared Kingston. They signed Drake Nugent, Bryson Mays. They brought in 4 offensive linemen, young offensive linemen. They also brought in Brandon Parker. So, I mean, they brought in some bodies there. At tight end, they brought in Logan Thomas, Eric Saubert, and Mason Pline. At quarterback, they brought in Tanner Mordecai and Josh Dobbs. At running back, they brought in Isaac Garendo and Cody Schrader. I like both those guys. They redid their defensive line, brought in Malik Collins, Leonard Floyd, Yatir Gross-Matos, Jordan Elliott. Evan Anderson after the draft. Shaquille Brown. They added Devondre Campbell at linebacker. They added Malik Mustafa, Renardo Green in the secondary. Tatum Bethune, another young linebacker. So I don't know if they had a bad off season. I guess my question or my measuring stick would be the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
If their offensive line is bad this year, then maybe it wasn't a good offseason. If their defensive line is not improved from last year, then maybe it's not a good offseason. But I kind of like Leonard Floyd, and I like Jordan Elliott and Malik Collins, and I'm not even sure that they're done upgrading their D-line. And I think Pooney's really an exciting prospect, and I think Nugent and Kingston are kind of exciting inside. So, and then Pearsall and Cowing, I think, give them a couple good receivers. I don't know. I mean, to me, when you've added 10 or 12 pieces to your puzzle that are going to make your roster on a pretty good roster. And I think there's some starters mixed in there, maybe not day one starters, but eventual starters. I wouldn't call them one of the losers of the offseason. If you want to say it's neutral, I'm okay. If you want to say that Philly did more, Detroit did more, one of Washington who signed 20 veteran free agents, that they did more. If you want to say there are teams out there that did more, fine. But I would say the Niners are more of a neutral wait and see than that was a bad offseason. That's
Yeah,
just my perspective on it.
and I
And
agree.
what do I know? I don't know any more than any of you guys in the chat. I'm just I watch. I may have more time to watch some of the film, and and I may have a deeper experience level scouting. But you know what? I don't know. A lot of this is guesswork, and I'm just giving you my opinions, and I want you to give me yours. I would say it's on a scale of 100, I'd give the Niners like a 60. I think it's
Yeah,
a I think it's better than a mediocre draft. And I understand the people who say I wanted an offensive lineman in the first round. They didn't do that. I guess if they sign Aiyuk, that's a big part of it as well. Maybe if they had signed Aiyuk, maybe people have a different perspective. But
yeah.
I would say I'd give him a good 6 on a scale of 1 to 10.
I mean, I think I was even higher. I say a 7 at least. I mean, I think Ayuk's a big part of it. I think that's kind of what factored the Niners in, in some of these signings and stuff like that. But I feel like a lot of times when these people are like grading off season and what they're looking for splash, and people they get so hyped up on the big names. But sometimes big names don't always correlate to greatness. I think it's about quality over quantity, and that's the Niners. They know who works for their team. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes they get like players that you're like, who? But then they turned out to be good for the 49er system. Like all these years we've talked about, like Charles Menuhu, we get guys like that. You're like, who are these guys? But they become good players for the 49ers because they have good coaching staff. So I think that's part of it where it's a lot of guys with potential. If they reach their potential, it's like, damn, okay, the 49ers really added some great players. There's a lot of people that they added that you're like, well, I don't know if he's going to be good. Ricky Pearsall, I don't know if he's going to be good because there's people that are out there saying, was it a reach? I was talking to you out behind the scenes. Like there was I think it was I can't remember, somebody from ESPN where he said he did his, deep dive of the offseason and he said that the 49ers made the biggest non-quarterback reach by drafting Purcell. And some people believe that because again, you have Debo, you have Aiyuk, you have Jennings. Was there a need for a wide receiver there, right? Which he looks good. His work ethic is great. So far people are raving him. But like you said, they could have used an offensive lineman. And just based on watching the Super Bowl, watching the playoffs, if you look at the 49ers, what did they need? They need to improve the D line and the O line. I think they did improve the D line. I think Leonard Floyd is going to be fantastic. I think Jordan Elliott's going to be great. I think Malik Collins is going to be fantastic. But I'm a Niner fan, so maybe I'm looking through it with my Niner goggles. But the O line, I'm still a little questionable on them. I'm not 100% sold.
I hear you. I hear you. The Niners would counter and say, we had pick 31.
Yeah.
And 8 offensive tackles went off the board before our pick, and we didn't want the 9th best offensive tackle, so we went receiver. It is interesting. ESPN, as you said, says Ricky Pearsall was the biggest non-QB reach of round 1. The Niners took him at 31. This was an article written by Seth Walder on ESPN.com. He gave the Niners offseason overall a grade of a B, so it wasn't like he panned their offseason. But he thinks that was the biggest non-quarterback reach in round 1. I disagree. Now, we'll find out over time. I definitely think that if you look at where most people had Pearsall rated, middle of round 2, some people at the end of round 2, for the Niners to take him at 31, if you're just basing the reach concept based on where the player was drafted as opposed to where he was mocked, then I agree with you. But if you look a little closer, I'll go in 2 different directions here. I think that the biggest reach of the first round was the Bears taking Rome Odunze at number 9. Everybody loves Rome Odunze because Rome Odunze is a great guy. But I think Rome Odunze is just a good but not spectacular wide receiver. He's not Malik Neighbors. He's not Brian Thomas. To take him at 9, Rome Odunze in the 9th pick overall, you watch a great college quarterback and a great college set of receivers, and usually one makes the other. Well, I think Michael Penix made, McMillan and Rome Odunze. I really do. I think those receivers for Washington are totally overrated. So the Bears went with Odunze, and I also think Caleb's overrated. So a lot of people think Caleb to Odunze is going to be like the next great combo in the NFL. I'm on the other end of that spectrum. I'm looking at double bust, or at least, 2 guys that were way, way higher rated on draft day than they will be rated after 2, 3, 4 years in the NFL. That's just my prediction.
Yeah.
And then the other one I was going to say is I thought Green Bay Green Bay reaching for Jordan Morgan.
Mm.
Jordan Morgan played some tackle in the Pac-12, but I don't think he can play tackle in the NFL. I think he's a guard, and he's a guy that got bull rushed and really didn't deal well with power. And now I think he's gonna have to slide inside. I think he's a short-armed, low-end tackle at best, and I think he's probably more like a guard, an underpowered guard. And I just think Green Bay, Green Bay's made some really good picks in recent years. I don't think this is one of them. I thought Jordan Morgan at 25 and Roma Dunze at 9 were the biggest reaches.
I mean, the Falcons. Let's talk about. I mean, Falcons made one of the most crazy.
I mean, I love Penix. I think Penix is
do
awesome.
too, but after you're right, Kirk Cousins, he didn't even know about that whole situation was crazy, and I get it. Cousins is coming off a major injury, so you want to get some insurance, but the whole situation was a little outlandish because they didn't even know. Kirk Cousins and his team didn't even know they were going quarterback. Boom, they get Penix, and it was turned everybody's head. That was great. That was wild. So why aren't the Falcons up there as losers? But I don't know.
There are people that scream to the heavens that they were the biggest loser after day one. But to me, when you look at the value of quarterbacks and what you can get if you land a quarterback, and then what happens to your franchise if you don't land a quarterback, to me, I got no problem with a team that's not winning that says, you know what? Yeah, we signed Kirk Cousins, but he's 34 years old and we don't know about the future. And we love, Michael Penix, and we're in Atlanta where, my daughter lives in Atlanta. She says the interest in the Georgia Bulldogs and what's going on in Athens is 10 times interest in the Falcons. The Falcons are they're not even a second fiddle. They're like the third or fourth option as far as entertainment behind Georgia football, behind Georgia Tech, behind Atlanta Brave baseball, behind probably 19 other things. So I think the Falcons, I think Penix can really play. And I think Penix is gonna make that pick look good. But we'll see. Time's gonna tell.
Yeah, all right. You're right.
Seth Walder also had another topic here that I want to get to. He gave the Niners offseason breakdown. He gave their offseason a B grade. And he asks 3 questions. The biggest move, the move that he liked the most, and the move that he disliked the most. Okay. And the biggest move, he says, is not trading Debo or Aiyuk. The move that he says he liked the most was not trading Aiyuk. And the move that he disliked the most was reaching for Ricky Pearsall. So in a lot of ways, it's like one take all into one, 3 different angles. But I'll throw that to you, Raj. If you gave the Niners a letter grade, what would it be? And what's their biggest move? What's the move that you liked? What's the offseason move that you didn't like?
Yeah, obviously, I did this exercise a while back. I say it was a B minus. I'd go with that. Again, I'm still not 100% sold on the O line. But we'll see. You still got Trent Williams, you still got Aaron Banks, who's in a contract year. Jake Brendel, arthritis knees, scary a little bit, but you mentioned there's a lot of talent at the center position that they have, Drake Nugent, et cetera, et cetera. Still worried about the right side. Will Colton McKivitz take a leap? That's kind of where I grade them down. But they improved everywhere else, I think. I think their biggest move was going out and getting Leonard Floyd. I really think he's going to be that big of an impact for this team. They've been looking since they got D Ford for a guy off the edge to help Nick Bosa. They thought it was Chase Young, and it wasn't. I love the Leonard Floyd move. The guy's consistent. He puts up big-time numbers every single year, and he's very durable, right? Knock on wood that he stays that way. I liked it. I think that was the best move that they could have done. What was the other question to it? It was
basically you've got different options here. You've got, what was the best move the Niners made? Yeah. The biggest move that they made, the move that you liked, the move that you disliked.
Yeah, so the best move, I think, was Leonard Floyd. I think the biggest move, I'll agree, is not trading in a way Debo or Brandon Aiyuk. That was the big talk of the offseason. Are they going to trade Debo? Are they going to trade Aiyuk? Draft day was coming, and it was they're going to trade one. They're going to trade one. They were fielding calls. John Lynch said, hey, I'm not going to hide my cards. There are offers on the table. But the fact they kept them together is huge because I think Debo is very important for the team. He's a captain. And hopefully they can figure out the Aiyuk situation. But the fact that they didn't trade him, to me, was definitely the biggest move. I'll agree with that. The move I didn't like was just not upgrading the right tackle. But they're going to put in faith on Colton McKivitz. Will he take a leap? You got to remember, last year was his first year as a starter, so he should get better, right? You would assume he's going to get better. So did I like that? No, but does it mean that it's a bad move? No, because he could get better. And again, the move that I liked the most was I think the draft, they did a really good job in adding future players that are going to become, starters on this team, players that can pan out down the line. I mean, they added some linebackers. We don't know what's going to happen with Hufanga and Greenlaw. Are they going to be healthy? They got Malik Mustafa. I really like him. And they've added a wealth of other defensive players that I think they're going to be able to step in eventually. And they did a good job. Renardo Green, I love that pick. I think he's going to come in and be a nickel cornerback starter, maybe if he really shines in training camp. So I like the picks they made in the draft. Again, they could have done better at right tackle, but time will tell with Colton McKivitz.
I'd probably give him. Would you say B minus
I
or
said
B
B
plus?
minus, B, yeah, B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say B minus. I would say the biggest move. I agree with you. It's Leonard Floyd. I mean, come on. The 49ers, Nick Bosa is a monster. He's one of the best defensive ends in pro football. If the Niners had a good, they don't need a spectacular, they don't need Myles Garrett. If they just had a damn good defensive end opposite Nick Bosa, they would have been a significantly better team than they were last year. Their defensive line last year was the most overrated defensive line I've seen from them in years. Randy Gregory, good dude, didn't get it done. Chase Young, has got some nice bling and, puts a whole can of Copenhagen in his bottom lip. Seemed like a pretty cool guy. Always was a straight shooter, but he Cadillac it in the NFC title game. Mm-hmm. Adding Leonard Floyd, who's got unbelievable speed, size, length, explosiveness, and consistent production in different schemes on different teams and different conferences. I love the Leonard Floyd. I mean, to me, that's the biggest move. It's like, having Nick Bosa and then having nobody opposite Nick Bosa is like having a security system that's like the most expensive security system in the world and then leaving your garage door open. You know what I mean? It's like, why have the most expensive security system in the world if you're just going to leave your garage door open? And that's what the Niners were last year. They had Nick Bosa. They paid him a ton, but really on the other side, their garage door was open. So you could easily slide the line towards Bosa and combo block him and take him away and, make somebody else beat you, and they couldn't do it. So Leonard Floyd, biggest move of the offseason by far, Leonard Floyd. No question. The move that I really liked, I'm going to say Cody Schrader. And the more that I watch Cody Schrader, the more that I love Cody Schrader. This guy's a damn good running back. And he's fast, he's quick, he's got instincts, he's got balance, he's got heart for days. Cody Schrader as an undrafted free agent. Great move. Love that move. The move that I disliked, I liked most of the moves the Niners made. I got to be honest. But the one move that I really didn't like, I'm going to say Devondre Campbell. Okay. You had Winters, you had Graham, you had a deep draft of linebackers, Tatum Bethune, you drafted. There were other good linebackers that could have been had. Devondre Campbell, no. To me, he's a guy that you can pick on in coverage. I think he's played his best football. I think 2-3 years ago, he was a much better player with better speed than he has now. I don't know. There's something that the idea of Devondre Campbell stepping in for Greenlaw there's just no way to spin that as even a neutral move. That's a downgrade. So yeah. I would say Devondre Campbell at strong side backer, didn't love it. Cody Schrader as an undrafted free agent running back, love it. And biggest move, Leonard Floyd.
I'll say this about Devondre Campbell. I get why they did it. They needed a veteran, but anybody that's going to come in to replace Dre Greenlaw is going to have a hard time doing so because the guy's energy, you can't replace Dre Greenlaw's energy. I kind of feel like they should have went with one of the younger guys because I feel they'd be a little hungrier, but I can see the vision. You get a veteran who's not going to make mistakes, who's hopefully not going to make penalties and stuff like that. These younger guys, they might be chomping at the bit a little bit too much, so they might be a little hard pressed and make mistakes here and there. But yeah, they have a lot of young linebackers. But but I could see why they need a veteran in the clubhouse. And this guy's been on a good team for, Green Bay, rival. He's hungry. But yeah, hopefully Dre Greenlaw gets back because it's hard to replace a guy like Greenlaw. And one other thing that we didn't mention that I was thinking about as we were sitting here talking.
Yeah.
Actually, I love the fact. I actually love the um uh the move where they got rid of Arik Armstead. Like I loved Armstead when he was here, but he was so unhealthy the last couple of years. He wouldn't see the field. They saved a lot of money. They shed his contract, and I think they upgraded with Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott. Like I think we're gonna be like, oh wow, these guys are really good against the run. And again, no slight to Armstead. He was a great player for the 49ers, but the last 2 years, he wasn't even on the field. So I think that was great. Getting rid of him, shedding his contract. You got $18 million back in cap space. And I don't even know if he would have played many games this season. You would have lost a lot of money, and you saved that. You saved a lot of anguish because if he wouldn't have played this year, dealing with injuries, Niner fans would have been really pissed off at the guy. So I think that was also a big move for the 49ers. I loved it.
That I'm glad you highlighted that because to me, that is the biggest kind of question mark. I mean, I know people would say O-line, maybe some people would say Aiyuk and his contract and trade status and blah, blah, blah. But look at the D-line. They had Arik Armstead. They said goodbye. They had Chase Young. They said goodbye. They had Randy Gregory. They said goodbye. Cleveland Farrell, goodbye. Javon Kinlaw, goodbye. There's somebody else they cut that I can't think of. But they basically said goodbye to 6 of their defensive linemen. They brought in Leonard Floyd. It's year 2 of Hargrave. They brought in Malik Collins. They brought in Yatir Gross-Matos. Lynch has been talking him up. They brought in Jordan Elliott. And then, they brought in Evan Anderson. They gave him a lot of money as an undrafted college free agent, 380,000 or something like that. Shaquille Brown, they added as an undrafted street free agent. They really like him. He looked good in the minicamp. To me, if there's like one kind of like major question that I have for the 49ers going into this year is what is the net results of all of this movement on the defensive line? Are they a better defensive line than last year? Are they worse? Are they the same? Are they a lot worse? Are they a lot better? I mean, it's like when you change out, you got, let's say 10 defensive linemen on a roster. You change out 6 of the 10. They're all bets are off on what this is going to be. I mean, this could be anything. This defensive line could be, I've seen Hargrave working out and he looks like he's motivated. This could be just a monster defensive line with Floyd and Bosa being the best edge tandem they've had since D Ford was here, 4 years ago. And you could be right. Elliott and Collins could step in for Armstead. They could be major upgrades. Or you know what? They could miss Armstead and Collins and Elliott could not be upgrades, and Drake Jackson and Robert Beal may not come of age, and Evan Anderson and Shaquille Brown may not fire in the summer. And to me, the D line, because of all the change, is the area where I feel pretty good about it. Yeah. But there was a lot of talk in the last few days about, which teams want Brandon Aiyuk and would there be a trade? And one of them came up was the Commanders, and people were saying Jonathan Allen. I mean, if the Commanders are offering Jonathan Allen, I would drive Aiyuk to the airport. I like Aiyuk. I like Aiyuk. But if the Commanders are offering Jonathan Allen, I would take Jonathan Allen and I would get down the road. Because to me, I feel like if you told me you got Jonathan Allen, Malik Collins, and Hargrave, now I feel better about the defensive front. Now I know if this D line had Leonard Floyd, Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, and Jonathan Allen, and now you've got Collins and Elliott and Givens and Drake and all these guys off the bench, I would say that line is definitely better than any of the lines they've had here under Shanahan. Even the DeForest Buckner line that they went to the Super Bowl 54 with. Whoa. If you give them Jonathan Allen, Hargrave, Bosa, and Leonard Floyd, and everybody else is coming off the bench, I think that's a tremendous line. And I to me, Jonathan Allen's worth it. That's just how I feel about it. I'm a little concerned about the defensive line. I mean, last year in camp, I kept telling you and others, I'm like, there's not enough guys here. I mean, there's just not enough depth here. I mean, they got rid of all their depth, Ebukam and Menahue, and they brought in Hargrave. And I'm like, there's just not enough depth here. And then here comes guys like Taco Charlton, and they're bringing in guys throughout the summer. And then they had to trade for Gregory, and then they had to trade for Chase Young. And it's like, they just weren't good enough. They weren't deep enough. They just didn't have enough up front. So that's a little bit of, to me, that's a little bit of a concern, because I don't know what Drake's going to be. I don't know what Beal's going to be. What if Drake's a 0? What if Beal's a 0?
I think they will be, but I'm higher on Robert Beal than Drake Jackson. But honestly, I think they did add more depth than they did in the past, because we had that conversation. Taco Charlton, all these guys they brought in. It was like they brought in a bunch of nobodies, and it was then they were like, oh crap, we need guys, and they were getting bodies throughout the whole season. They're okay, let's get Randy Gregory. Oh God, Chase, they were kind of spiraling. I think that plus. I don't know if Steve Wilkes really know how to use this D-line. He wasn't, it just wasn't hitting right. That was a big issue last year. Run defense was bad. Armstead wasn't there. I think this year, I don't know. I feel really optimistic about the defensive line. I'm really high on Collins and Jordan Elliott. I think they could be great. I don't know. I just have a good feeling about them. And Hargrave, man, he looks like a different guy this year. I think he was
disappointed. Get to him.
I think he was disappointed in himself last year because he came in and he got the money and he was just there to collect the check. But there's a video today of him working out, lifting 500 pounds. But there's other videos his trainer's been posting throughout the week, and I'm like, man, he looks really good. He looks smooth. He looks like he's lost a lot of weight, strong. I think this is gonna be a renaissance year for him. I think he's heard all the echoes and he's like, you know what, people have been dogging me. He's gonna step up and be a leader. I think he's gonna be good. Leonard Floyd, we talked about. We both think he's the biggest addition for the team, or best addition. I really think his D line is going to hit this year, and I think they're going to be better. Now, the other key again is the defense coordinators. Sorensen and Staley. Are they going to be able to get the most out of this defense? Because that's a big key of this too. It's not just the defensive players; it's the defensive coordinator. Last year there was, rocks in the relationship. And then Chris Krueger, we know he's going to get his guys ready. They'll be ready. But how are they going to be utilized? And that's going to be a big part of this.
No doubt. We've got this one from B Dubs. He says, hit that like. Yeah, welcome to the Krug Show, everybody. Hit like and subscribe. If you hit like, it just helps the algorithm. More people find the stream. And if you hit subscribe and you hit that notification bell every time we go live, you'll get a little notification, a little da-ding that we're going live, and then you don't have to miss any of the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. But thank you, B Dubs. All right, couple other things I want to hit here, and then we'll hit some of the chat. Okay. One of the Eric Saubert, George Kittle, Mason Pline, Logan Thomas, they were all in attendance today in Nashville, Tennessee. I believe the great Dave Lombardi was on hand as well for George Kittle, tight end U. And I don't know if you saw, have you played in any golf tournaments, celebrity golf tournaments, or any big time golf tournaments in your life, Raj? I mean, do you play golf, or you've been invited to any of these heavy swag golf tournaments?
I mean, I'm not a big golf guy, but yeah, back when I used to live in Vegas, there's golf tournaments all over. I used to go to, now I know he's in the spot. I know he's in the news a lot lately. Justin Timberlake, he used to host a big golf tournament. I've been to the Justin Timberlake golf tournaments. I did some volunteer work. I did a lot of work actually for my physical therapy school. We did some tournament stuff because we actually offered our services when I was a student on medical, and we go out and do all this stuff for them. So yeah, there was a bunch of tournaments our school was linked up with, and we used to go do all the tournaments and be in the medical tent. So yeah, I've been to a bunch of them.
There's a lot of swag at golf tournaments. So I used to play every year in the Hooters golf tournament. Did I ever tell you one time I show up on the first tee for a Hooters golf tournament in the summer, and before I could even get to the first tee, they're like, "Oh, here, take a couple kamikaze shots." So I'm like, I throw down a shot, throw down another shot. Crew, get a couple beers in you. Guy starts loading beers into my golf bag. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I love Hooters, Anyway, we get out to the first tee, and the guy who I'm in my foursome, it was a couple of retired football players. I think Jeremy Newberry, and I forget who the other one was. It was a former Raider. And we were playing in Pleasanton. Guess who the fourth person in our foursome was?
Oh,
I mean, you could never guess. Cato Kalin.
shit. The dude
Kato
from the-
Kalin was in our
OJ's best
fourth.
friend.
OJ's, whatever, lived in the back house at
Yeah,
OJ's.
Oh my
Needless to
God.
say, we talked a lot of OJ in that
Oh,
golf
do you know
tournament.
the story? Do you know the
I
real
know
story?
details that nobody else knows
Oh,
about
Larry.
OJ. No,
Larry knows the
but
truth.
yeah, it was me and
He
Kato
knows-
Kalin. But what I was gonna say is that we got swagged out big time by Hooters. So like, I think they gave us like Nike. I mean, everybody got fitted for like Nike golf shoes. You got a brand new golf glove. What else did they give you? All kinds of stuff, all kinds of swag. Ball markers, boxes of balls. I mean, just shoes, golf glove, a little, everything, just everything you could possibly think of. They're swagging you out.
Yeah.
And that's what Kittle had going on today at tight end U. Did you see that? He was giving every single guy got like any kind of shoes they wanted, sunglasses, all kind. I mean, he swagged those guys out to death. I mean, it was awesome. I was looking at the swag room and it was like, oh my God, man, these tight ends are showing up. He's giving them like boxes of stuff. It was impressive.
Taking care of the tight ends. He's trying to put tight ends on the map. And this is crazy. This is the 4th year. I remember when they first did it, it was just like a ragtag group. He's out there, but now it's really become like a big, like teaching summit for, playing the tight end position. Like he goes out there, shows skills, and there's a lot of celebrities. It's a fun time, but I feel like he's really trying to enhance the image of tight ends. And when he wraps his career up, man, he's going to be doing so much stuff in media, sports media, wrestling. This guy's his personality is like huge. He's going to be doing so many things, man. But yeah, shout out to George Kittle and his crew. They set up Tight End University. It's gotten pretty big now. So yeah,
if I had to ride cross country with 2 49ers,
yeah,
that means I got to talk to them for days.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably choose George Kittle and Dre Greenlaw.
Oh yeah,
Greenlaw's a great guy, and he's real, and he's heartfelt, and he's fun, and he's cool. And then there's Kittle, who's just a kick, man. Kittle's a spaz. He's got so high energy, and he's funny, and he's fun, and I love, like, a couple times this year, like he talks to the group as a group, but he talks at a certain time, and he shows up and he's like, the PR guy's like, all right, does anybody want to talk to George? And everybody was talking to like somebody else, right? Everybody was talking to like Debo on the other side of the room. And so I was the only guy standing there. I'm like, oh, I'll talk to George. And so I got like a one-on-one with George until the media saw that, I was getting a one-on-one, and they sprinted across the room. But I mean, George is just, I hate this term. It sounds corny, but George is good people.
Yeah.
You know that? You never heard that term? Hey, Bob's good people. Johnny's good people. George is good people. George is that guy. So I brought my kid to camp one year. I wasn't supposed to, but we were coming back from vacation, and I was happened to be down in the South Bay, and I had my kid and his high school buddy. And I thought, okay, well, you know what? Do I have to drive all the way back to Walnut Creek and then back all the way down to the South Bay? So I asked Bob Lang, I'm like, hey, would it be okay? I go, they're high school seniors. They're football players. They're not disrespectful. They're not going to cause any problems. I promise you, they'll stand wherever you want them to stand. They'll be out of the way. But I got these. I don't want them to sit in the car. Is there a way they can just stand on the sideline during practice? He said, Krueger, we don't do that. We don't, you can't bring your family to practice. I'm like, all right, I get it. He goes, I'll make an exception. So he makes an exception. He tells them, stand up against the wall. Well, the Niners were all coming out. And, the players all walk by, and a lot of the players kind of giving the guys like a head bob because they could see the football helmet on their golf shirt, said Northgate football. And they could tell they're high school football players. And other young high school football players, for whatever, somehow make their way to camp somehow.
Yeah.
George comes out carrying his helmet, bouncing along. It's 97 degrees. He's getting ready for a hot training camp practice. He's like, hey, what's going on, fellas? Shakes their hands. Hey, I'm George. Like they didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
I'm George. Hey, where you guys go to Northgate? Yeah, you guys going to have a good season? How'd you guys do last year? Oh, really? What position do you play? I play this. I play. Yeah. Oh, hey, man, you guys want to take a picture? Oh, yeah. Hey, man, have a great summer. Have a great year this year, guys. Go Niners.
It's awesome.
It was like 90 seconds, right? It made a huge impact.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, my kid's like, dude, George Kittle's super cool. And his friend's like, Dad, George Kittle, his friend's like, George Kittle's an amazing, nice guy. I'm like, and they're like, is he just that way all the time? I'm like, that's
him.
That's who he is.
He's a good guy, and that's the thing.
He's just a normal guy. And I asked him about it a few weeks later. I said, George, I brought my kid out here. Man, you were so nice to those guys. I go, where does that come from, man? I mean, you're busy, you're pro, you got all these other things going. He's like, Krug, it wasn't that long ago. I was in high school. He goes, I was them. Like seemingly like 45 minutes ago. And so when I see them out there at training camp, I'm like, I know what it would have meant to me to have an NFL player come over and ask me about my season. So I just put myself in their shoes and I go, dude, you're golden, bro. You're golden. Yeah.
He's a good dude.
He's golden, dude. I mean, he really is.
And I've heard that, like, he's told that story. I think, I don't know, maybe it was the same interview.
I may have told that story before.
You may have, but I know it's like, I know I've heard the audio, whatever. But that's the thing. He said it before. He goes, when I was a kid, I used to go and wait for hours till, and I think I can't remember the player. Maybe it was Brian Urlacher. He says he came up to him and like talked to him, and it made his like world, So he knows what it takes. If you're there and you give this kid 10 seconds more than the next player, they're going to remember you more than anybody. Like, oh my God, he made it personable. He made it about the person, the player. And if you ever go to the training camp practices and you watch afterwards and signing autographs, he'll sit there and he'll sign and he'll be there for longer than he needs to be. Like, he's one of the guys that stays. And Hufanga's another guy. He'll stay and sign everything till he is, sweating to, profusely. But those two, like, that makes a big difference for the
Who was the guy you just said?
Hufanga.
Yeah, Hufanga.
Yeah, he's another good dude.
Awesome dude.
Yeah, he's another good dude.
I mean, Hufanga is like almost hard to believe how good a dude that guy is.
He's such a nice guy. But that's that island vibe, man. The folks from the island, they're so nice, man. I've never met someone.
It's like when you're truly nice tough. When you're truly a tough guy, you don't have to front.
Yeah.
And that's what Hufanga is. Hufanga's truly a tough guy. And he doesn't have to front and act all tough because he is tough. But he's he's the kind of guy that,
good dude.
You if you have a daughter, you're sitting there and you're like, I hope someday she brings home somebody like,
you want to tell
Hufanga.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy who's going to be like, stand-up guy. Respectful. And, he's got the perspective and he's just a dude, just a really cool dude. And I'll say this, the Niners have a bunch of guys like this. It's, there's probably 10, 15 guys in the room that are really great guys. But,
Absolutely.
Huff and Kittle and Greenlaw, man, those guys, top of the list. All right, couple other things I want to get to. But Saubert, Kittle, Pline, Logan Thomas, they were all at tight end U. I guess this was my long-winded way of asking you. Kittle's obviously your tight end 1. Who do you think wins the battle for tight end 2? Is it Saubert? Is it Braden Willis? Is it Cam Latu? Is it Logan Thomas? Is it Jake Tungs? Is it my guy, Mason Pline? I'll say this. Just the fact that Mason Pline is in Nashville for tight end U makes me think that he's got a pretty good chance to make the team. Otherwise, why is Kittle letting him hang out with him in Nashville at tight end U if he's just going to be, cut? I like Mason Pline. I think Pline and Willis and Kittle are going to be their 3 tight ends. Who do you got? Who's your tight end 2? Oh, what happened? Did we lose Raj? Did I lose you, Raj?
Yeah, for a second. My bad. Okay.
Did I lose you or did you lose us?
I lost you guys, but we're back. We're back. Yeah.
I was going to say, who do you like behind Kittle as tight end number 2? Is it Logan Thomas because of the name? I think it still might be Mason Pline based on the talent. I don't know. What do you think? Latu?
Yeah, no. I think Logan Thomas just because he's doing it longer. He's got the veteran presence. He's put together some good seasons there. I feel like he's gonna be. He's probably like at the front runner to be tight end 2. Now we've talked about this. I know Kyle said, "Hey, it's not a given. It's a competition." I do like Mason Pline, but he's undrafted. He's still untapped. Like he's got to go into camp and show that he belongs on the damn team first and foremost. But
sure,
this tight end, competition, it's going to be very wide open because not a single one of them has a leg over anybody else. I think this is going to be one of the biggest competitions in training camp, because not a single one of these guys, I think, is a lock to make the roster. P-Line, Sauer, Logan Thomas, not a single one of them is
It's wide
guaranteed to
open.
make this roster. It's wide open, Larry. But I think, if gun to my head, if I had to make a decision right now, June 18th,
Yeah.
2024, I'm going Logan Thomas.
I'm going 49er underscore throwback here. I'm going Braden Willis.
We'll see.
I think Braden Willis looked good. Look really good
I hope
in the
so.
minicamp.
I
mean,
hope
this guy can. I'll say this about Braden Willis. Guy can catch the ball.
Okay.
Guy can catch the ball. Now, I don't know if he can block anybody, but he can catch the ball.
That's big time. You need to be
that's a big question.
That.
That's a big question. Yeah. I don't know if he can block anybody.
You know who has a lot of catching up to do, though, is Cam Latu. That man, you got a lot of catching up to do.
But he's athletic. We'll see if he can. He might be the best athlete of the group.
Okay.
Okay, a couple more. I read this today. The Niners, have the number one percentage chance of winning the Super Bowl according to ESPN Analytics. Niners have a 16% chance of winning the Super Bowl. Kansas City is the second at 12% chance. But how about this? In 3 of the last 6 seasons, so in half of the last 6 years, the team that had the best preseason chance to win the Super Bowl, according to this measuring stick, ESPN Analytics, ended up winning the Super Bowl. So 3 of the last 6 seasons, the team that had the best percentage chance of going to the Super Bowl, according to these guys, went to the Super Bowl and won it. This year, it's the Niners.
Hey, if that means we're going to win it, do it. I don't care about the numbers anymore. I just want to see them do it, Larry. I hear you. Talk is cheap. Numbers are
seriously
cheap. Just need it.
Just throwing that vibe out there and see where it goes. Okay, couple other ones here. Nick Sorensen. I thought Nick Sorensen was unimpressive the first time I talked to him. And then between the first time I talked to him and the second time I talked to him, it's like somebody got to him and told him, hey, Nick, loosen up, lighten up. You're a bright guy. Just go out there and be loose. I thought he was way more expansive in his answers, way less he seemed defensive the first time we talked to him. The second time he seemed in command, in control, like he had been coached up a little bit. I'm not saying it's, a presidential debate and he's been, coached up or put on some kind of drugs or anything. But I mean, this guy definitely, from the first presser to the second, I thought, came across much, much better in the second one. Let me ask you this. Do you think Sorensen can reignite this 49er defense that lost Armstead, won't have Greenlaw, lost Chase Young, lost Farrell, lost Kinlaw, won't have a Fonga maybe in the first half of the year? And I don't know if it's first half, but maybe the first month. Can Sorensen, in your mind, do the job? Because right now, this is one of the big questions going into this year is, who is Nick Sorensen, and can he, as a first-year coordinator, with Brandon Staley literally perched off his right shoulder, looking over his shoulder, can he get it done when the Niners are, have high expectations and they're leaning on, they want their defense to help lead them to a Super Bowl? Can Sorensen be the guy? What do you think?
I mean, that's what we hope for, right? That's what Kyle Shanahan's hoping for. That's what he got rid of Steve Wilkes. But I will say, I do agree with you on the sense of his first presser to the second one. PR guy must have came in and said, hey, look, we need you to be a little bit better than me, because that second one blew me away. I remember going live after that press cut, that second one, and I was like, wow, look at these answers. Like, look at this. It was night and day. I was actually thoroughly impressed. It was like a different guy. I said, what did they do to that first guy? Did they throw him in the closet and replace him or clone him? I don't know. But whatever they did was great, because his answers were a lot more enthusiastic. He gave me a little bit more hope. So had you asked me this question after the first press conference, I would have said, absolutely no way, Larry. But after the second press conference, I was like, you know what? Maybe he knows what he's talking about. I feel like the team trusts him. Kyle said the players love this guy. That's why they gave him the job. If he has the trust of the team and Fred Warner specifically and Nick Bosa, then I think things will do good. I think he has a good set of coaches around him. Obviously, Chris Krueger. And you know what? The more I've seen Brandon Staley, I liked his vibe with the 49ers. And I know he was a failed head coach, but he's been good as a defense coordinator in the past. And I guess, he's going to be giving him mentorship and helping each other out. And, you said he's kind of like perched on his shoulder. He's kind of like the bird from Aladdin, right? We just kind of like that. He's like his. It's like his assistant. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna work because I just don't think there was enough trust between Kyle and Willis. I think or sorry, Steve Wilkes. I think Kyle truly trusts Sorensen. He wouldn't have given the job if he did, because there was like a wide search of coaches. I think he really trusts who he has at the defensive coordinator position, Sorensen and then Staley. I really think Kyle respects these guys. I think it's going to work because of that. I don't think Kyle trusted Steve Wilkes. I think he, at some point in the season, was like disgusted with him, and he just didn't trust him, and it didn't click. That second half of the season defensively it was awful. So I think it'll work.
The zero coverage in the last play of the first half in the Viking game, where the rookie got deep. I mean, that was bad. That was bad. I think Shanahan lost some faith in Wilkes. Also, Wilkes was an outsider. Sorensen is not an outsider to the Niners. He's an insider. They know him. And I think that, maybe makes all the difference in the world. I mean, the bullets are flying. You got to have that trust. It was clear listening to Fred Warner talk the other day about Sorensen that he has full belief in Sorensen. And that's the guy that I really need to believe. Whether I believe, you believe, whether any of the fans believe, if Fred believes, then that's good. That's a good starting spot.
Yeah.
All right, couple more here. Niners over-unders 11.5. They've won 12 games, over 12 games the last 2 years, right? Or is that right? What did they go last year? Was it 11 was it 12 and 6?
We had 12 wins, yeah.
12 wins. Yeah, so they've won over 12. They've won 12 or more the last 2 years. The over-under is 11.5. Are you going over or under? I'm going under. Warren Sharp has the 49ers with the largest rest disadvantage, minus 21 days in the entire league. The Niners will have 8 games this year where they will go into that game with less rest than their opponent will bring into that game. That's the most in the history of the NFL. So even though I think it's right on the number, and when Kevin and I did the exercise, it was like 12-5, 11-6. We were right there.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say under. I'm going to say under for the 49ers this year, just because this rest thing is like the silent killer. The Niners had a major rest disadvantage against the Bengals. They were thoroughly outclassed that day. I really have to believe that the rest had a huge, huge hand in that. And the fact of the matter is they play 16 games or 17 games, and 8 of the games, they're going to have less rest than their opponent. That seems like a stacked deck against them. I'm going to say under 11.5. Maybe it's 11-6, maybe it's 10-7. But I'll go slightly under the 11.5. Where are you?
It's gonna be close, because I remember when I did my predictions. I think I had them at 12 wins. They're always due for one of those weird losses where they lose that game. So I know that's gonna happen. New defensive coordinator, like we talked about, kind of getting the jitters, Greenlaw, Huff. Without them, how are they gonna fare early on? I mean, there's gonna be some losses that we're gonna be pissed off at. But I feel like this team is good enough, and the NFC still isn't strong enough to take down the Niners for too many weeks. But I think 12 wins is where they at, which is barely over. So it's a good number. I think the number is spot on, and you can go either way. But I think they go 12. Purdy should be better this year, right? He had a whole offseason this year. He's got a whole full offseason. He didn't have to rehab. He should be better. They got pretty much the core is back, and they're going to be hungry. I got Bosa. You got him help, with Leonard Floyd. I think they should be a better team. There's going to be some weird losses, and teams are going to be gunning for them because they are the NFC champions. So I feel like taking the under is a safe value because teams are going to be coming at them that you don't expect them to lose. But I do have them winning at 12. I mean, this team is too talented to be losing games, to teams that they should be beating. So end of the day, primetime games, I think the Niners are going to shine. This team has been consistently making it to the playoffs these last couple of years. I got them at 12, but anything could happen. If they only win 11, I'm not going to be surprised at it.
I'll make this prediction. They will win no games that Brock Purdy doesn't start.
So he better start them all.
he better start. UC Steve says, I think 49ers will make it to the playoffs, but I feel Arizona will be a huge surprise in our conference. That's interesting that he likes them as a big surprise team. That being said, this is kind of an interesting stat I read today. I thought I'll throw this to Raj. There are 4 teams that last year were playoff teams that Vegas is projected to have losing seasons this year. Browns, Rams, Steelers, and Bucks all made the playoffs last year. All are projected to have losing seasons this year, according to the Vegas over-under.
Wow.
That being said, if I say to you, because every year there's some team, that is the NFL. The teams that make the playoffs this year don't make the playoffs next year. Teams that were, you think of Houston last year, they won 3 games the year before, 3 games. And, they look good at times against Baltimore in the second round of the playoffs. So Houston was the surprise team last year. Who's your surprise team this year? I'll give you the teams that lost double digits last year. Jets, Pats, Titans, Chargers, Giants, Commanders, Vikings, Bears, Falcons, Panthers, and Cardinals. All those teams lost 10 or more games. Who's your surprise team this year? I guess it's easy to say the Chargers with Harbaugh, I guess.
I think the Chargers definitely will. It's not a surprise. They should be better. They coaching staffs drastically changed. They added a lot of players, and I think the vibe is up there with Harbaugh and everything. And they shouldn't have lost that many games last year with the talent they have. So I think Harbaugh will coach them up. I don't think the Jets is a surprise because hey, they didn't have Aaron Rodgers last year. If they had a good quarterback, they probably would have won a lot more games. Right? They were pretty competitive. Defense kept them in games. But this is a make or break season for Robert Salah, I think. But I think they'll be close to making the playoffs. That division's tough. Honestly, a lot of those teams I can't see making a huge jump because I feel like a lot of them are still in rebuilding mode. Out of all those teams, though, I would maybe roll the dice on either the Commanders or the Falcons. Falcons should be better. They were kind of a playoff team in that NFC South, which is a terrible division, but they got Kirk Cousins, upgraded the quarterback. So they could probably, compete with the Saints up there in the NFC South. And then I'm kind of surprised that they have the Browns not making it. I mean, that team defensively is just as good. I think that defense could carry them pretty far. And then the other team, I guess I could say oh crap, what was the other team? I said the Falcons, and then maybe the Commanders will be better, but I still don't see them making the playoffs just because they're still kind of rebuilding and gelling that team. I think they'll be a much improved team, but I don't think they'll be like a playoff team. Just like I think Arizona will be scrappy this year, but I don't see them making the playoffs just yet. I think they'll be much improved, new coaching staff. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is that's gonna be a tough matchup. That's gonna be a tough matchup.
Here are my surprise teams, and I don't even know if they were even that big of a surprise. But I like the Chargers to go from worst, to a playoff team. They were 5-12 last year. Harbaugh will turn that thing around year one. I like the Colts. I think Anthony Richardson is really, really good, and I like the Colts to get off the canvas. They were 9-8 last year. I think they will be better this year. And I'll tell you this. I think the AFC Championship game is going to be the Chargers and the Bengals in Cincinnati.
Wow.
And I think it's going to be Cincinnati beating the Chargers to face the Niners in the Super Bowl for the third time.
Woo,
Joe Burrow goes from worst to first in the AFC North, and the Bengals win that division and go to the Super Bowl and face the Niners in the Super Bowl.
God, wow. I like the prediction. I like Joey B. I like Joey B versus the Niners. I love it.
Wouldn't that be good? All right, 2 last ones here. Brandon Aiyuk this week. I've kind of buried one of the leads, but we'll talk about it here. We saw him talking to Jaden Daniels, and he's like, they don't want me. They don't want me back. And then Mayoka went on KMBR, and he's like, I find it very hard to believe that the Niners don't want him back. And Adam Schefter talked today on ESPN and said, it's not that the 49ers don't want him back. They don't want him back at his price. They want him back at their price. It's a negotiation. So what was your takeaway watching Aiyuk tell Jaden Daniels, they don't want me back for real? What'd you think of it? What'd you think of it?
First and foremost, I woke up yesterday when it first happened, I woke up, opened TikTok, and that's the first thing I see. And I'm like, what the heck? And then as I'm seeing it, everybody's posting it. And I'm like, oh, God. I thought it was so silly. Like, he's laughing in it, like trying to hold back laughter. And in the caption of the video, he says, I'm laughing, but I'm crying for real. And then you got the girlfriend. Oh, they told me to vlog it. It's all shenanigans. I know it's leverage tactics. And what Schefter and Rappaport are saying is, hey, look, it's not that he's saying that they don't want him. They don't want him at the price he wants. It's the 49ers that have all the leverage. They're saying, hey, look, we've offered you like $26 million. It's like double your salary. Take it or leave it, because you're on the books for $14 million, whether you like it. Whether you sign a contract or not, you're on the books for $14 million this year because you're fifth year option. I think Aiyuk's just trying to drag this out, getting some leverage, put some pressure on the Niners, and saying, "Hey, look, I want out, this and that." But you know what's going to happen? July, as it always happens by training camp, both sides will come to an agreement. I thought the video was just so silly. Like, it seemed like satire. Again, when his girlfriend was like, "Oh, they're telling me to vlog it," and he's like laughing, and I couldn't take it serious, Larry. I was laughing the whole time I was watching. It's like, come on, Brandon. Is this what we're doing? Is this really what we're doing on a Monday morning?
Seems like he gets a kick out of it, to be
He
honest.
does. Yeah.
Seems like he gets a kick out of it, which is kind of whatever. I mean, you can judge that for whatever it is, but
Yeah.
I don't know. The guy's a good player for sure. I'd love to see him back. Is he coming back? Is he not? I don't know. I
think he is.
You know, there was an article I read today, 5 teams that could trade for Brandon Aiyuk if the Niners can't strike a deal. And the 5 teams were listed were the Commanders, who obviously have his former college teammate Jaden Daniels. They played together at Arizona State. You got Adam Peters there. They got $37 million in cap room. The Steelers, who have been linked to Aiyuk the most. Obviously, they want another receiver. They traded Deontay Johnson. They got $15 million of cap room. They would love to pair Aiyuk with George Pickens. The Patriots, who are in full rebuild mode and have the worst weapons of any team in pro football. They also have almost $50 million in cap space, the most of any team in football. The Chargers, who kissed off Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and are leaning on Ladd McConkey. And, you know, some people might say Detroit because they got $40 million in cap room. The other people have speculated maybe the Raiders, maybe Jacksonville, maybe the Colts. They all have lots of cap room and could make a trade. If I say to you, Aiyuk wants $33 million, you know, he doesn't want Jefferson money. That's the good news. But the bad news is he wants just under Jefferson money. And let's just say the Niners are just not there. They don't want to pay. They don't want to pay. I mean, think about it. All these top paid wide receivers. I looked at the top 25 wide receivers. Guess how many of the top 25 wide receivers have won a Super Bowl? Paid wise.
Not a single one of them. Not a
3.
Single? 3.
3.
Okay.
Cooper Kupp.
Okay.
And then outside of Cooper Kupp, it was Mike Evans and the other guy in Tampa.
Chris Godwin.
Chris Godwin. Godwin and Evans in Tampa, and then Cooper Kupp, and then Tyreek Hill won one, but it was before he won it with
Mahomes.
Kansas City with Mahomes before
Mahomes,
he signed the
Tom
contract.
Brady, and Matt Stafford.
So none of these high paid receivers have won the ring for the most part. I mean, there's 25 of the top 25 highest paid receivers. 3 guys have won rings. 22 have not. So maybe paying these wide receivers just through the nose maybe isn't the recipe to win a championship. So let's just say Aiyuk says, you know what? I don't care that you got to pay Brock Purdy. I don't care that you're hugged up against the cap. I don't care that you got all these great players. You pay me my $33 million AAV with, $100 million guaranteed, or trade my ass.
Okay, that's crazy. You know what I'm doing? I love Brandon Aiyuk, and I want them to bring him back. $33 million a year, so I'm doing. Speed dial, Adam Peters. Hey, Adam, this is John Lynch. Terry McLaurin for Brandon Aiyuk. Let's make the deal happen. Have a great day. Send it in. And Larry Krueger wants Jonathan Allen too, okay? Send it in. We're driving him to the airport.
I'll take Jonathan Allen and Jahan Dotson. Or I'd take Jonathan Allen and Luke McCaffrey.
Yeah, I'd take it too. Hey, guess what? Larry Krueger's driving Aiyuk to the airport specifically. He's driving the girlfriend. He's taking her with him too. Go.
You don't need to call an Uber for him. Krug's got him. He's going to drop him off at Oakland.
Send him. Boy, $33 million is ludicrous. Come on, man.
That'd be awesome. Hey, Krug, can you give Aiyuk a ride to the airport? Who are you getting in return? Terry McLaurin and Jonathan Allen. Oh yes, you're kidding me. I'll drive them all the way there. I'll go cross country. We can ride in the Tahoe. Okay, here's my thing on it. If he wants that kind of money, I'm moving him. And I'm not thinking twice about it. Now, the move that I'd love to get though, I'd love to get something out of Washington. But the only thing about Washington, I don't know that you're going to get McLaurin. And if you're not going to get McLaurin, now you're giving Jaden Daniels, Brandon Aiyuk, and Terry McLaurin. He's got Scary Terry and Aiyuk, and Ertz, and a run game, and a bunch of guys on D. I don't know if I want to set up the Commanders. I think I'm thinking more AFC at that point. I would do this deal. I would trade him to the Steelers, and I would want the center they just drafted from West Virginia and their second round pick. And to me, that's fair. That's a fair. Zach Frazier was a second round pick. Brandon Aiyuk. And if you can get Zach Frazier and a second round pick, Frazier could be your starter at center for the next decade, and then just figure it out. Figure it out from there. Get a second round pick and Zach Frazier, move him to the Steelers, let him pair with Pickens, and then plug in Frazier along your offensive line and start building a wall around Brock Purdy. That would be my plan.
They do need to build a wall around Brock. So I mean, worst case, if he wants $33 million, I'm on board, Larry. Make it happen.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I know it's good to know. All right, give me the one player that you're most excited to see, because Raj and I will see each other at camp this summer. That's what I love. I love when I think some of the happiest days of the year. I think of some of those. The fans are going crazy, and it's perfect weather. We're standing there in Santa Clara. It's 92 degrees, and Raj and I embrace in right behind the bench there on the far sideline. To me, Raj, those are some of the great moments of covering the Niners. I don't know why. Just the carefree nature, the fans, the content creators, the enthusiasm, all is right with the world. Those are some of my favorite days of the year.
Yeah, it's a good 2 weeks, man. It's a great
2 weeks. It is.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man. It's so much fun to be out there.
Yeah.
If I say to you, give me the player that you're most excited to see this summer in Niner camp. I'm not saying this guy's the best player. I'm not saying this is your favorite player. Just give me the guy that you're like, man, I can't wait till they put on the pad so I can get to see this guy this summer. Who are you looking for?
I mean, I want to see Ricky Pearsall, see what he's all about, the first round pick. I want to see. I mean, this is the guy they drafted first round. They haven't had a first round pick in 3 years. Him and defense, man, I got to see Mooney Ward. I want to see him. Because last year, Mooney Ward, other than Brandon Aiyuk, Mooney Ward was like the guy in training camp. I want to see him. I want to see him dog it out again, because other than Brandon Aiyuk, like Mooney had everybody in a vice grip. He had Debo clamped. He had Aiyuk. He had everybody just sick to their stomach. And then he got a groin injury, and Brandon Aiyuk was cooking everybody. But when he was out there, Mooney was like clamp city. I got to see Mooney Ward again this year.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I'm gonna go Malik Mustafa, who just looks so impressive on the practice field. I mean, he really is impressive. And then I would say Jacob Cowing, just because of the speed. And I got to see Evan Anderson, he's 315 pounds. This guy was grossly overweight in college, but I feel like the Niners have caught lightning in a bottle here. This kid is down to 315. Kasarik says that's what he's going to play at. He's got great strength, great feet. I think he's kind of an underrated sleeper. I think there's a job there if he plays hard and plays well in the preseason. I'll say Mustafa Cowing and a flyer on the undrafted defensive tackle, Evan Anderson. I think Anderson might be something.
I like that. I also want to see Jair Brown, second year. I got to see him. I think he's going to take a leap this year. Like, we saw Hufanga.
No, there's no doubt he is.
That year 2 leap from Hufanga, I think Jair Brown's going to do the same thing. I'm hyped to see him. And then your boy, Schrader. I got to see Cody Schrader. Like, I know
Cody Schrader.
That's the guy.
Cody Schrader is to me. I'm waiting more for the preseason for him, just because the way it works. And it's hard to really see how good the running backs are until it's live.
If he's so good, they can't cut him because he'll get picked up on the wood. Like, he might be that good enough that he forces a trade. That's how good I wanted him to be. If he's that good, Elijah Mitchell or Jordan Mason can trade this offseason. That's how
I think you're right.
That's how good he needs to be.
as much as I don't want to predict it, I think you're right. I think Mitchell or Mason get moved for Schrader. I think Schrader takes a spot. By the way, the Niners rookies report July 16th. The veterans report July 23rd. I think the first practice will probably be the 24th or the 25th.
Yeah.
And I will be there, and Raj will be there as well.
Boom.
All right, let's hit some supers, and then we got one last one with the Say Hey Kid. And then we will bolt for the door, but let's hit the supers right here, and let's hear the star chat. Some of them are not super. Some of them are just some that I put out here. Paul Lou says, now that Kevin's done with school at Cal Poly, he needs to be a full-time co-host. I'll tell him. He's in the other room. He's getting ready to go to Europe. That's right. Kevin and his girl are going to Europe for a month. So, Kev, if you notice this channel starting to really suck in the next month, it's because Kev went to Europe. No, we'll still have lots and lots of good content and keep the thing rolling. But I don't think you will. Kev will be doing a lot more content and a lot more involved with the channel as soon as he gets back from Europe. So as soon as training camp starts, Kev will be a regular. We'll do our Wednesday night call-in show. And we get this one from 49er_throwback. He says, Kevin is busy. Kevin is busy. We got this one as well from JC Montana. Congrats again to Kev. Yep, absolutely. And we got this one from 49er_throwback. He says, congrats, Kev, on graduation. Is that clapping? Has the best father, Larry. Man, time flies. R.I.P. Willie Mays. Heartbroken. Which rookie are you most excited to watch come training camp? I'll say Schrader. I'm really excited to see Schrader.
I got to see Persal and Renardo Green, man.
Yeah, Renardo Green, too. 49er throwbacks, just congrats, Kev. Has the best father, Larry. Man, time flies. Okay, so you basically did that again. One was a super. Busy B drops this one. Drake is not done. Is he talking about the rapper?
No, Drake Jackson.
Drake Jackson.
Drake,
I don't think Drake's done either, but
he cooked, man.
But I might have to bust out a little money in the grave. And listen. There you go.
With the reference.
Look at you. It's in my Apple Music. I've got a little money in the grave.
I'm impressed, actually. Yo, that's impressive.
I can quote several songs from DaBaby if you'd like me to go there.
I'm good tonight, but maybe next time. Holy
I'm good tonight.
Yeah.
PDX Niner. I liked our offseason. It was modest, and everybody signed a reasonable deal. And then he said, we need to make similar moves to signing Charvarius Ward. It exceeded expectation. UC Steve says, what happened to Moody? I don't know. What happened to Moody? Nothing. Nothing's happened to Moody. Blood Moon, Moody's there. Blood Moon says Niners earned play-in little hardball since they never franchise tag at all. They've done right by players. If the locker room is what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch built, they would understand. Okay. Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Thank you, Blood Moon. And Paul Newland says, pig in a pickle. There you go. And then, of course, California Man 4000, RIP Giants legend Willie Mays. And Knight says, RIP Willie Mays. And why don't we finish with the Say Hey Kid? It's one of the highlights of my career. It was 2000. The Giants were playing a series against the Yankees before they opened Pac Bell Park at the time. And Willie Mays was in the dugout, and I had a chance to interview him. And I was intimidated, and he was intimidating. And I'm not, you guys know me. I don't get intimidated. I just don't. But he was my dad's favorite player. I can just remember my father talking about Willie Mays, and he would just say he was just the best. He was the best. The guy played so hard that he literally would collapse, and it happened to him several times throughout his professional career. But rest in peace, the Say Hey Kid. 1931, he was born. He played. He played. Obviously an incredible career. I played with the New York Giants. Giants came west in '58. Then played with the San Francisco Giants. Then was traded for Charlie Williams. And when Horace Stoneham could never financially take care of Willie, and they traded him back to Joan Payson, the owner of the Mets, who promised to take care of him for Charlie Williams, and Willie finished up with the Mets in the early 70s. When I was too young. I was born in 70, so Willie, by the time Willie was done, I never saw him play live, but 2-time MVP, 12-time Gold Glove winner, tied for the most ever. 24 All-Star games. You got to be fucking kidding me. 24 All-Star games, tied for the second most.
Yeah.
They played 2 there for a while. That's how he had so many. 6,080 total bases, 4th all-time. 660 home runs, 6th all-time, and it doesn't speak to it. That 660, the guy played in the Polo Grounds. The guy played at Candlestick before the chain link fence when you had to hit it in the football seats for it to be a home run. I think there was only like 4 home runs at Candlestick in the first year of Candlestick because nobody could reach the football seats. And then they had to bring in the chain link fence. They had the wind howling in, and Willie had to change his game from a dead pole guy to a guy who hit it out to center and right center, and he did. He made the adjustment. But if Willie doesn't miss, if Willie ever played in a park that fit his game like Hank Aaron did, if Willie didn't miss 2 years because of his Army commitment, he would have been the home run king.
Probably.
So, in my opinion, and this is all, this is one of those weird things. It's like, in what world does the guy who has 660 home runs, the home run king? In our world, because he really was the home run king. He really was. Hank Aaron has said as much.
Yeah.
And obviously Bonds is the real home run king, but that was steroid related, enhanced. We all know that. So Willie Mays, 660 home runs.
That's a lot.
6th all time. And he was 3rd, I believe, all time when he hit 660. He would have been Hank Aaron. He would have been the all-time home run king if he hadn't missed the first year back from the Army. He hit 50 home runs.
That's crazy. The guy was 24-time All-Star.
24-time All-Star. 2,068 runs scored, 7th most in the history of the game. 3,005 games played, 9th all-time. 1,909 RBIs, 12th all-time. Wow. 3,293 hits, 13th all-time. 1951, he was promoted. He was the Rookie of the Year. He played 150 games for 13 straight seasons.
That doesn't happen these days anymore. That's crazy.
This guy was the analytics department before the analytics department. There's video footage that show Willie positioning Orlando Cepeda, positioning Willie Kirkland, positioning Bobby Bonds, positioning Felipe Alou, positioning, Willie McCovey. He was the guy who ran the outfield. Herman Frank said, hey, I let Willie play center field the way he chose to play it because he knew ball players. Now there's like guys with little index cards in their back pocket and nerds in an office with spray charts doing what Willie Mays did naturally just by playing the game and having it in his head.
He knew it. He knew the game.
He was class. He was class personified. He was a man of dignity and pride. Jackie Robinson kicked the door open for black players to play in the major leagues when he broke the color barrier in 1947. And by 1951, Willie and others came along and they went through that door, but they still got taunted. They still had, people, saying terrible things to them. And he just never allowed it to ruin his enthusiasm for the game, his enthusiasm for people. One of the greatest athletes in American sports history. And he won the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian award that is given to anybody in our country. He was awarded that. To me, it's also the timing is so unique. 2 days before Willie was set to be honored at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, Alabama, when the Giants played the Cardinals. He was going to be the central focus of that thing, whether he was there or not. And he still will be. But now it will be after his death. And, this was a guy who played with the Birmingham Barons. and the Chattanooga Lookouts, and his manager Piper. They had Willie on the team at like 16. Like, all the people in Alabama knew that Willie was a superstar in the making, and he was playing with men when he was a teenager, and they knew how special he was, and they helped him cultivate his talent. And Piper did a ton for Willie's baseball game. Leo DeRocher did a ton for Willie's baseball. Went to the Hall of Fame in '79, first ballot. His 24s retired by the Giants and the Mets. He was a member of the All-Century team at Fenway Park in 1999. World Series champion in 1954. The best. I remember talking to my dad so many times about Willie Mays, and he literally would just be like, simply the best. Just the best. He went first to third, always. He went second to home, always. He ran the bases with reckless abandon. He played center field as well as anybody has ever played center field. He was a true 5-tool player. He could hit for power. He could hit for average. He could run. He could throw. He could field. He was everything. He was absolutely everything. And it's an amazing thing if you watch the retrospective that they do on NBC Sports Bay Area. John Miller makes the point that when he got called out of the minor leagues in 1951, he got called to New York City. He didn't have an agent. He didn't have a handler. He didn't have anybody who could help him along and here, Willie, this guy's going with you. You can fly to New York and he'll take you to the ballpark and they're going to pick you up in a limo. No, he got a plane ticket. He flew to New York. He got off the plane. He had to find his way to the ballpark. Wow. And when you think about what Willie Mays was able to accomplish coming from Mobile, Alabama, and making it in New York City, and he was the biggest star in New York City. Mantle, Mays, and Duke Schneider all played center field in New York, in one city, in one, at one point in history, and with the Dodgers, Yankees, and Giants all there in New York in the 50s. So, numbers don't, it's like I saw a thing with Harry Edwards where he said, you could talk about Picasso and to say, describe it as, splotches of orange and purple and this, but it wouldn't speak to the genius. And you could throw out numbers about Willie Mays, but it doesn't speak to the genius. And then when you're talking about the total player, but then you're also talking about the total person. The man was dignified, and he was proud, and he was loved baseball, and was a great, maybe one of the greatest ambassadors for baseball.
Yeah.
And we lost him today at 93. And I heard Dave Fleming say it in the broadcast. He got choked up. He's like, I don't even know how to say this. And I didn't know what he was going to say. He kind of held it off. But we lose the say, hey kid. And just, I don't know what else I could say. I mean, baseball is the sport that is passed down to you from your dad. Mm-hmm. And my dad was the guy who, with Father's Day just passing, there were so many days he would work hard and come home and play catch with me in the driveway. And, as a little kid, I didn't realize, my dad just worked all day at the office, and now I'm telling him to go upstairs and put on his tennis shoes and throw the tennis ball with me in front of the house. And he always did it. And it's just like, I think of him. I thought of him on Father's Day and how much I miss him and love him. And I thought about how many stories he used to tell me about Willie Mays and watching Mays at Candlestick, and before that, at the stadium, the field, they over by J. Borg Lumber, where they played when they first came out. But my dad was a huge baseball fan, loved Willie Mays, had nothing but respect for Mays. And he would start talking about Mays. He'd be like, kid, he was just the best. He was just absolutely the best. And I think Ray Ratto, to me, is a great wordsmith in that retrospective. I thought had the greatest line about Willie Mays. And his line was that Willie Mays was the signature player of baseball's most talented era. And that's really what it was. I mean, the greatest depth of talent the game's ever seen was in the 50s and 60s. And he was a little bit better than Aaron. And Clemente was great too, but he was a little bit better than Clemente. And Mantle was great too, but he's a little bit better than Mantle. And Duke Schneider was damn good too, but he was a little bit better than Duke Schneider. And Stan Musial was great, but he was a little bit better than Stan the Man. And even San Franciscans had a hard time because they loved Joe DiMaggio. He was from North Beach. He was their favorite son. But Willie won them over. And we lost a true legend. There aren't that many legends. And he was a true legend of the game. Yeah. I thought NBC Sports Bay Area, sometimes their postgame show is just too suck up for me, right? It's too glowing about a mediocre team. But today I got to say, Ramirez and Aurelia, Wotus, they had Ken Griffey on, they had Dave Dravecki on, they had JT Snow on, they had all these highlights. They did an incredible job. Absolutely incredible job at celebrating the life of Willie Mays. So RIP to Willie Mays, man. RIP to Willie Mays. And Mitchell and Ness's Giants playing at Rickwood Field Thursday to honor Willie Mays. It's going to be a special game. Yeah, I'm going to tape that one. Nathan Banks is RIP to Willie Mays himself. God bless the Say Hey Kid and his family. Seal Stadium. I'm sitting there talking about the ballpark. I can't even remember Seal Stadium. But yeah, and somebody made a suggestion, and I love the suggestion, and I hope they go for it. 24 should be retired.
Yeah.
It should be retired.
Yeah.
Across the board, because that's how good Willie Mays was.
He was the man. Yeah. Nobody's going to ever mount up to that. You know what I mean?
Nobody should ever wear 24 again.
It's unbelievable. He was the man. Like you said, a legend. I don't know if you saw Barry Bonds, but he kind of gave him a little send off on his Instagram. He says, I am beyond devastated and overcome with emotion. He goes, I have no words to describe what you mean to me. You helped shape me to who I am today. He goes, thank you for being my godfather and always being there. He says, give my dad a hug for me. And he says, rest in peace, Willie. I love you forever. And then he puts say hey. And that's it. That was a good way.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
And when I think of, Willie was a great Giant. And I can remember an older Willie Mays, obviously, coming to spring training with the Giants in '89, and he worked with Kevin Mitchell that year on his hitting and his defense. And what did Mitchell go do? He won the National League MVP. He hit 47 home runs. I don't think I've ever seen a baseball player have a more destructive year at the plate than what Kevin Mitchell did in 1989. 47 home runs. 125 RBIs. Everything off of Mitchell's bat that year was loud. And he worked every day in spring training that year with Willie Mays. And he played a very good left field. He won the MVP of the National League, and he deserved it. So incredible. Absolutely incredible. No question. The GOAT.
Yeah.
Kenny says you guys refuse to go to sleep. Now we're gonna call it right here. Yeah. Anyway, rest in peace, Willie Mays, and our prayers and our love go to his family and every one of you who loved him. We share that. We share that as Bay Area sports fans. He was ours, and he was special, and he was the best. And think about it. Think of the impact Steph Curry's made. Mm-hmm. He's the best. Think of the impact that Barry Bonds has made. Joe Montana. They were the best. Willie Mays. He was the best. Absolutely the best. Rest in peace, Willie Mays. All right, that's going to do it for us. Raj, have a great night. Thanks to all of you guys. Appreciate every single one of you. Tomorrow, by the way, last week we caught up with Brent Jones. We're going to put that interview out tomorrow. So that interview will be coming out tomorrow. Also, we're hoping to catch up with Marty Lurie tomorrow and do a stream tomorrow talking about the Say Hey Kid. Also tomorrow at 8:45, Damon Bruce stops by. We'll do a little live stream with Damon. Thursday night, Dieter Kurtenbach will be in the house. Friday, Chase Sr. will join me in the morning. Saturday morning, the coach will be by. For Raj, I'm Larry. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Krueger Show. Love every single one of you. Once again, rest in peace to the Say Hey Kid.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful.